folks. Let's do a little bit of a fireball in honor of Firebaugh, California, home of Josh Allen, throwing piss missiles and taking names on a
Let's do it.
weekly basis.
It says ignite the night.
It ignites a headache with the sugar in it, I'll tell you that. But,
all right. Cheers to Victory Monday and the Buffalo Bills beating the Cleveland Browns 31-23.
And to Bills Mafia coming through for helping the team out.
For sure.
In more ways than one.
Thank you, Squirrel Winters.
Yeah, shout out to Squirrel Winters. All right.
Wow. Welcome back to another edition of The House That Allen Built. I'm Scott Kinmartin. With me, as always,
Greg Vollmer.
And today we're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills beatdown on the Cleveland Browns in Detroit. Home game in Detroit at Ford Field. What did you think?
Well, I just got one thing to say.
What's that?
When you warm up the motor's gonna purr.
I thought you were going to start belting out your song.
Motor up! What's your price for flight? Feed that man some...
Mice?
No.
Flight? Might?
Give him more than 10 carries, and he'll take us to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, Motor actually had a good game. Finally, 18 carries for 86 yards. And they gave the ball to James Cook as well.
Yeah, Cook did more technically with the less amount of carries. He did the same yardage with less carries.
Yep. Yeah, James Cook had 11 carries for 86, and Motor had 18 for 86.
Yeah, I'm just happy that Motor finally got more than 10 or 12 carries.
And he scored.
Yeah, and he got into a rhythm. They let him get into a rhythm, and you know, there was a few plays that both him and Cook had that were stopped short for not much. But in order to give a running back into a rhythm, you got to give him some time and get him
keep going.
Yeah, give him a feel for the game and get his feet wet and like I said, man, the oil's got to warm up for the motor to start churning and burning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to keep it lubed.
Got to keep it lubricated. And then, James Cook got brought in for some cleanup duty, and he did extremely well, and he was very efficient with that cleanup duty.
So the Niners are playing Monday night, and CMC, just like last week, gets most of the touches in the first half, and then they give Elijah Mitchell, some carries, and it's good to go maybe 2 series, 1 series, or whatever it takes. It could be 1 carry, 2 carry, however they want to do it. You might not like that run with the hot hand, but it worked.
There was a second down play call, and I believe it was the first half, after Motor had already been starting to get his, like I said, a rhythm going, and then they bring in Cook. And again, I think there's this pressure to not only... It's not that the coaching staff is listening to the fan base and the pressure of the media and people asking why haven't we seen more of James Cook, but you know that, I don't know, Brandon Beane and McDermott, there's probably some pressure of okay, we drafted this guy in the second for a reason, but they can't deny that Singletary's clearly been more than efficient. Once again, Singletary averages 4.7 yards per carry in this game, so again, he's just... What am I saying? Every week I feel like I'm saying all he's doing is producing.
He's consistently producing.
Yeah, but then again, they bring James Cook in on a second down and pull Singletary out. Cook gets stuffed. Now you could play devil's advocate and say, well, maybe the same thing would happen with Singletary in there. But it just, I don't know, man. It bugs me when you see a running back get in a rhythm. That's our RB1. And then you bring in Cook, on a second down play. It's like maybe bring him in on third down or something. But I'm kind of nitpicking here. It was a solid game all the way around for running, and Allen didn't run a bunch.
No, Allen ran 3 times for only 7 yards. He did have a nice scramble that was negated by a penalty, but it was actually a balanced attack because against the Vikings, they ran 2 running plays in the final 24 plays. When they were up by 17, they should have been milking the clock and methodically marching down the field. That didn't happen. And my alma mater, UCF, lost to Navy because they were able to milk the clock. UCF's used to a fast-paced offense where they go down the field and score in a minute or 2, right? Well, if they go 3 and out 1 or 2 times in that game, they don't score. But if every time Navy has it, they score, you're down by 1 or 2 scores, and then you got to play catch-up. And that's what the Bills were doing with their game plan previously. Now, there were actually more runs than passes this game. Allen was 18 of 27 for only 197 and a touchdown. But the key here, no interceptions.
Yeah, and fans aren't going to like it for the MVP race as far as that goes because it's not obviously it doesn't look brilliant when the stat sheet comes out. But I would rather have it be balanced for a while, especially if Allen's still kind of milking that injury a little bit.
He definitely has that UCL elbow injury still, and it might be more severe than we were led to believe because they kind of, we weren't sure if he was even going to play against the Vikings. And he comes in and he's ripping the ball, and he threw for over 300 yards, but it didn't matter. I can tell that he's reluctant to pass. His confidence is down a bit, and good thing he had Knox as a check down, 7 receptions for 70 yards.
We finally got Fort Knox back in action.
It was nice to see.
And I mean, we got to, I mean, I feel like we can come to the conclusion that Allen is in because the doctors approved him to be in, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he's 100%.
No, it's just means, pain tolerance more than anything.
And they, from what I had read, a couple weeks ago, he couldn't hurt his elbow anymore. And I mean,
True.
Granted, unless he got hit the exact same way,
yeah.
him throwing the ball shouldn't hurt him any more than he already is.
So in the Major League Baseball, they throw 100 miles an hour, and you grip a baseball like this. So Tommy John injury, which is right where they have surgery, it's in the same area of the UCL where when he was throwing the ball like this, it was hyperextended back a little bit, which is going to cause discomfort when he's doing this. It was tingly, and it affects bruising in the muscles.
And then
kind
gripping
of stretching.
is one of the biggest.
Sure, and maybe he can't grip and rip that 70-yarder like he did on that one freak play. That I think he just grinned and bared it. But for a full game, this is forcing him to check down and march down the field in little first downs rather than trying to go deep. The one call that Dorsey had that I didn't like was that 3rd and 2, where we're basically almost in the red zone, and he throws it 15 to 20 yards to Davis, who drops it.
It was right. It was right there too. He had it. I mean,
he was covered, but he was actually open in the front. Like the guy was behind him. If he had actually held onto it, would have been a nice first down. But that's 3rd and 2. I know a lot of teams would expect you to run it, but maybe they're trying to do that to set up for future games to where they're not going to run it, so they have to play back, and then Allen can just sneak it up or something. But I just didn't like that.
Play calling is clearly tougher than the average person would be led to believe. I mean, they're getting paid millions of dollars to try to scheme up stuff and against some of the most athletic, talented defenders in the world. But yeah, it seems like a lot of plays that different teams on any given Sunday a lot of the coordinators, they seem to either call plays that, like a lot of times when I was watching the Vikings with my brother, he commented on how many times they would design a play on 3rd down that would be short of the sticks.
Yeah.
And every fan's probably gotten frustrated about that. But when we were watching the game and when Darren was pointing it out, it was like blatantly obvious, like that. Yeah, like for 3-4 series in a row. Every 3rd down play call, it was as if they were just expecting the wide receiver to break a freakish tackle or two,
and they haven't been known for yards after catch.
Yeah, so it's like I think one of the most frustrating thing for fans is play calls that are called that are not even close to getting to the sticks on 3rd down, or having some outlandish play call when you've got just an easy dump down or a quick screen or a draw, where you just need 2 or 3 yards, and then you go for like a 15-yard chunk and. Yeah, granted, if Davis would have caught it, it would have been awesome, but he didn't, so then it makes it look a little, questionable.
But I was saying in the pregame show that you didn't make it to. I just did something quick, so we had it up. But I wanted them to have more of a balanced attack, just like many people, many fans, and media. And they actually threw 27 passes, and they ran, 18 for Motor, 11 for Cook, 3 for Allen. That's more than 30 right there. So they had a little bit more running than they did receiving, or for passing yards. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
And I think there's a lot of people that I've been hearing since this game's gotten over here on Sunday, and a lot of media people are still commenting on how they don't want the Bills to try to establish a run or take what Allen does best away. And I understand what they're coming from, but here's what's awesome about what happened on Sunday. Even though it's against a crappy defense, don't forget that. We were complaining, or I was especially complaining about how the Bills gave up in the second half against the Vikings, but the Vikings do have a better run defense than the Browns.
Yeah.
Now the Browns have a horrible defense against the run, so I'm glad that the Bills did try to take advantage of that weakness. But the fact of the matter is, what I love about what the Bills did on Sunday is that the Bills need to prove to themselves, maybe not even to themselves, but the Bills need to prove to the rest of the league that they're competing with to get this Lombardi at the end, that they can run the ball like this.
Yeah.
Even if it is a crappy defense, show the other teams that they can do more than just chuck the ball and have 4 spread out or 5 spread out,
Yep.
empty sets, and either whether you're dinking and dunking or throwing chunk plays. Because yeah, it looks great when you can jump down the field with throws.
Sure.
But to move methodically and to know that we've got some talented running backs that if we need to have them kind of carry some of the pressure, they can do it as well. And then we've got that secret weapon as in Josh Allen that can at any given time use his arm and beat you. So
Well, that's what happened in the first 4 or 5 games. They were chipping away, dinking and dunking, marching down the field, scoring. They were the number 1 scoring offense in the league, even over the Chiefs. And then they started to go away from that. And we didn't want Allen to scramble. He was scrambling 8 or 9 times in a game. Last week against the Vikings, he had 80-something yards. This time, 3 for 7. Now we want him to run again. I do want him to be a threat. I do want him to run more. I just want him to be smart with it. And I want him to take what the defense is giving him. And it appears that he's getting back on track. Because the first half was very slow. I mean, until the final minute of the first half, they were behind. And then they scored to take the lead. And then from there, they were unanswered. They scored 25 unanswered points. And it was nice to see them come back in the third quarter, score again. What I don't like is 6 field goals. At least they scored in the red zone this time. The last 7 possessions, not including the kneel down, they scored a touchdown or field goal, and obviously it was 1 touchdown to 6 field goals.
no offense to the Browns and the fans of the Cleveland Browns, but 6 field goals can beat a team like the Browns when the Bills are beat up on defense and missing 3-4 of their key starters. It's not going to get it done against the Chiefs. Not even close.
No. Allen was sacked twice, so the defense for the Browns, Myles Garrett was in there and had a nice hard tackle on Allen. I think he was the 1 sack. And, I mean, you got to take him down. And some people were like, oh, he's roughing the pass or whatever. It's still football. You still got to tackle. And we assumed that was going to happen.
Yeah, in that first quarter, Allen was really getting pressured. Not only did the team on offense seem just lost, they seemed like a team that had barely made it to Detroit, gone through the stress of having to leave their families in 6 feet of snow, shoveling themselves out, neighbors helping them. I'm sure it was hectic. I'm sure, there was just a lot of moving pieces.
Obviously, a lot of distractions.
Yeah, so they seemed like a team, and a lot of people called that they would probably come out cold.
Yeah, because they missed practice on Friday, and then they traveled on Saturday. And normally Friday is your final walkthrough, or Saturday is going to be your walkthrough.
And then Wednesday, they didn't really practice as much because of the sickness that was going through.
Yep, there was a sickness in the locker room.
So, I mean, Allen looked flustered. The offensive line was getting dominated in the first period, in the first quarter. In the first period, it's hockey. In the first quarter, and he was
Obviously,
having to...
Diggs was a bit frustrated too, but
Diggs was
he more so
frustrated.
wanted to contribute. In the first half, he wasn't getting any targets, and they started in the red zone. Diggs made a quick curl, and he was open. It was still short of the sticks, but Allen ended up going deeper. Then, of course, the camera focuses on McDermott and Diggs having a little hug, huddle, walk through, talk, and it was fine. The next play, wasn't it? I think it was the next play or the next series.
Close to it,
He scored with Allen's fastball right to the back of the end zone.
And I think that shows how far Diggs has come in his maturity. Because when he was with the Vikings in that situation, when he was frustrated, he might have let it out in a different way.
Sure.
He might have gone and slammed his helmet down or, pushed something on the sideline or threw a water bottle.
Yeah.
And it shows how far he's come in his maturity. And I think a lot of that has to do with the growth of not only him, but the people around him, including McDermott as a leader.
I think he respects McDermott a lot, and I think he's very good friends with Allen. So regardless of who's celebrating with him after the touchdown or not, I think they're very close, and this team will continue to grow.
We know he respects McDermott because in the post game presser, he mentioned like McDermott always knows the right thing to say in situations like that, and he even though it might have been a little awkward for Allen if Allen saw that he was frustrated and goes up to the coach because it's like, okay, well, what's going on, right? Like, why don't you come talk to me instead of the coach? If you're frustrated, come talk to me, man to man. But I think he needed someone to calm him down, and the coach did what a coach should do. He said the right things, and Diggs handled it like a professional. He didn't, he didn't do anything out of line. He just talked to his coach, and he was frustrated.
No, and we're in the past, maybe Cole Beasley was that check down security blanket, and this year it's been a lot of Diggs, but for this game it was Dawson Knox. He He had 7 receptions, which is tied for the most in his career. He led the team in receptions and yards. And right behind him was Davis. He had 5 receptions on 7 targets. He had that drop, obviously. But 68 yards, no touchdowns. Diggs still finished 4 of 5 for 48 yards and a touchdown.
Yep.
So the offense did pretty well in the second half, more so. And the defense, I thought they did pretty well. They obviously, they were in position, but our cornerbacks were a bit soft. I thought Dane Jackson especially was in position, but on contested catches, he let him go. Amari Cooper got the best of them, and then Donovan Peoples-Jones did as well.
Yeah.
A couple toe tappers.
Jacoby Brissett, got to give him kudos. He had some beautiful throws. He made some plays with his legs. He had some plays where he pitched it, kind of just
He's a veteran
ad-libbed plays.
backup.
So he played like a wily veteran, and
He started 47
he played
games
like
in the
more
league.
than a game manager. Yeah.
Yep.
And so kudos to them, and kudos to that receiving core for the Browns. They did our secondary probably got the lowest report card out of any position group for that game.
I would say that our defensive line, they got a lot of pressure, but they didn't get a lot of sacks. They had 1 sack, and it was actually our linebacker, Matt Milano, who was all over the field.
The Italian stallion. Let's give him a round of applause. Is he not an absolute all-pro? Probably could be up for defensive player of the year.
Jordan Phillips, after the game, was his #1 fan and said he's got to be up for defensive player of the year. Not just for the team, but for the league. He's been doing a lot. In this game, he had 12 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, which was the same as Von Miller. He had a fumble recovery, damn near got an interception. He's just all over the place.
You know how Pete Carroll, when they had the Legion of Boom, and I think it was one of his sayings where he said they protect every blade of grass, pretty much as if saying cover all the blades of grass. That's what Milano's doing. He's like everywhere. He's
He really
covering
is.
every blade of grass out there.
Especially with Edmonds out. And Dawson did okay filling in. He had a couple spots where he was out of the way or out of place. But overall, the defense did well. It's really nice to have Poyer out there. He makes such a difference. Hamlin had a good game. He did have a couple grabby penalties. The one was kind of controversial. I feel like he had a little love tap on it on the wide receiver's back. What was called for it. He was in excellent position. Even Taron Johnson, one of the best slot corners in the league, got a touchdown scored on him, but he was right there to try to swipe the ball away. But you just got to be a little tighter. What are you going to do?
Well, I've seen a hell of a lot of those similar plays that a defensive back or a cornerback wraps his arms around and then it doesn't get called. So I've seen plenty of them.
What about
that
against
haven't gotten
Davis, where that ball he was manhandled and it wasn't called?
Yeah.
But with Poyer, they are 6-0 when he starts. So clearly Poyer makes a difference.
Man, and then let's give a round of applause to Poyer. What an absolute stud and an Iron Man of a player. Dude, I've talked about it before earlier in the season on a podcast about just how much character Poyer has.
He's one of my favorites.
You
And he's from here in Oregon.
you want to talk about a guy that's matured. The dude used to be an addict. He used to struggle with drugs and alcohol, specifically alcohol, I know. That's well documented. He's not shy from talking about that. He now helps other people that are struggling, and he takes time to mentor or give advice to those that are struggling with addiction. And so he's turned into just an amazing father, husband, and football player. And the fact that he didn't hold out this offseason, and then he's got an elbow that could be damn near in 2 pieces, and he's out there with a brace on there, sacrificing his body, making big-time tackles.
Now, anyone else over in Njoku, their tight end, he probably would have caught the ball, but Poyer came in and popped him. David Njoku got the best of him on another shot where he hurdled him. Yeah,
it was a great play.
Either way, Poyer is excellent.
What a good dude that he, even though he isn't happy with how the business side of things turned out, he loves the team and what's going on in Buffalo, and I think he's got enough respect for Bean and McDermott that he's not throwing a fuss. When he had every right to, and a lot of players in his position would have.
Sure.
And I get it. He's getting up there in age. It's his last chance for a big payday. He doesn't want to injure himself before he gets that security. So, again, just kudos to Poyer for being an absolute class act and really representing one of many players that represents what Buffalo really is all about.
Our secondary, they were good, but I can't wait for Trey White to come back. I don't know if he's coming back by Thursday. I feel like the injury report still doesn't have any sort of, hope. Like, he's not even on that. So when they said McDermott was adamant that he wasn't ready, I didn't know it was going to take this long.
Yeah.
But they had to activate him. So maybe not on game day, but they had to, or they'd lose him for the year. Where I think they're trying to stash him for.
Well, you can
later
definitely
on.
sense the frustration is building in McDermott's voice and his facial expressions. Each week that's going by, and he's getting asked the same questions by media. You just start to see the frustration starting to boil up, and all we have is speculations. And I don't want to talk about speculations. I only want to talk about facts. And so until we know the facts, I'm just going to leave it up to the fact that Trey isn't ready, and he's
It's been a year this week.
Yep, and for anyone that I think we've all felt the nervousness about Trey White's situation, the anxiousness, the anticipation of wanting him to be back. Obviously, he's our best cornerback, and he's a great leader in the locker room, and he's got a contagious personality. But 12 months is the average. There are some freaks of nature, and there are some injuries that, for whatever reason, the way the surgery goes or the way the tear happened, they can be out there in a little bit less than 12 months, but the average is 12 months, and he's right about at it. So even though fans are anxious and we're wondering what's going on, I'm hoping that it's not worst case scenario where he's got some setback or he's in his own head or mentally doesn't know if he can take it and get on the field. I think maybe he's right on track, and he just they're just playing
A
it
year
as
is
safe
still
as
pretty
possible.
good.
Look, we're all we can say is we wish the best for Trey White. The dude, you want to talk about what it means to be a Buffalo Bill. He's part of the class that McDermott drafted and put the beginning base of the team together that we have today. Trey, I hope you're doing great, and we can't wait to see you back on the field, and I know it's going to happen here sooner rather than later. So just Bills Mafia, keep your patience, realize that when it comes to the calendar months, he's still right on track.
Yeah, and so
I think the expectation was just set up in the fans in the off season by fans that we were expecting to see him sooner, and because of that expectation, we're freaking out.
It's because we've seen him for months running around, but that doesn't mean anything. You still need to be, game time ready is a lot different than just jogging around. If you saw Kyle Pitt's injury, he was high kneeing after he got up, like, oh, I'll be fine. They pulled him out of that game, and now he's having surgery.
There was someone that reported that Odell Beckham Jr. actually reached out to Trey White because they're teammates from LSU.
Sure.
Both LSU alum. And according to someone, Odell Beckham Jr. talked to Trey White and just pretty much was in his ear saying, don't rush back. No matter what people are saying or any kind of pressure, don't rush back. Play when you are ready. So take that for what you will, but that was just something I had heard.
Sure.
So, anyways.
So the rest of our talk about the defense, I would say, Brissett got the best of him sometimes. He had over 330 yards passing, I believe, and he's a good quarterback. That offense is actually very solid. They're a top 5 or 6 offense, and their defense is their leaky part, and that's where we take advantage of that.
Donovan Peoples-Jones is no joke.
Yeah, I compare him a lot to Gabriel Davis, and I feel like they just have a good team. They're losing by a score, but they'll turn it around. And I feel like with Watson in, it's going to be a different team.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a storyline to see how does he come in? What does he look like? We haven't seen him play football in so long that what's it going to look like when he comes in,
Yeah.
So
he's going to start the next game. I think that was Brissett's last game, and now they're on bye, and then week 13, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
if ready.
I think we definitely shouldn't fret about how the defense looked against the Browns because we are still banged up. We are still missing some key guys. It seems like every week we're missing someone or a group of guys. But like you said, the Browns offense is good. And even though we contained Chubb, he still is dangerous with the screen game. Same with Hunt. And they did get us on a few.
They did utilize him in the screen game.
But overall, we contained him.
Yeah, he had 14 carries for 18 yards and like 60 yards in the air, which is fine. If you look back to the Vikings game, we had Delvin Cook short up too. He had, I want to say 38, 39 yards, and then he broke that 81-yarder. You remove that one play, and he wouldn't have had over 100 yards, and that wouldn't have killed us. So the run defense, I think, is getting better. When Trey White gets back, I feel like our defense will basically be complete. There's always going to be that whack-a-mole where Edmonds is out, Milano's back in, and then now we have Greg Rousseau out in this game. In this game, Ed Oliver actually got banged up by Taron Johnson. It was a little friendly fire, and I was like, "Oh crap!" It looked like his forearm, but in the replay, looked like he got hit in the gut pretty hard in the ribs.
Think about when we're gonna have Trey back in the same game. Edmonds, Poyer.
Let's hope.
Kyer Elam.
He's been
My
practicing this week.
God, yeah, and then
He'll be
and
back
then, yeah,
this week.
and then when we get Rousseau back, and I mean, just think about how awesome it'll be if and when we finally get everyone back on defense. I think it's for Bills Mafia, it's going to be like this sigh of relief when we finally do have like the core back, because it's been mixing and matching and dinking and dunking and trying to just I'm sure Leslie Frazier has been definitely working overtime.
Leslie, you are throwing some Sean Connery. Leslie Frazier.
I'll take famous titties for 500, Trebek.
So we covered the offense. They did pretty well in the second half. We covered the defense. They did pretty well, except for some of the leaky plays towards the outside on the soft secondary.
It's hard to blame them anymore, though, with the injuries. I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Sure,
Even
they won.
Criticism, still criticism, and we need to see what we see. But like with the injuries, you can only do so much.
After the first quarter, I'm going, are we going to lose to the Browns? And then after halftime, I'm like,
well, yeah.
Okay, we took the lead again.
How many fans were having PTSD in the first quarter, just seeing our offense just go 3 and out? It's like it brings you back to like what it used to be, and you're like, oh my God, like what is this team? So quickly you panic when you start seeing a team that you're so used to. They've set this bar this high on offense, and then when they're down here, and you start to see them punt, and and then you're like, oh my God, you start to panic. But I think ye of little faith. We've got to have more faith in the team, even though we're I think as Bills fans we are naturally up and down, and
let's go over that roller coaster metaphor again.
Oh, man, that's exactly what the viewers want to see again this week, is another roller coaster reference.
All right, let's talk about something else. Let's get into special teams. It was actually a nice performance all the way around. We had Bass with 6 field goals and an extra point.
He kicked some bass.
I don't know why the Bills went for a 2-point conversion when they did. Looking at the numbers, I can get it. But it was their first one, and it just felt forced. Oh, it looks like Sam Martin's out here, and he's going to punt for the second time in the first half, and he only averages 2 punts per game. Guess what? He never punted again because they had the ball.
That's what we like to see.
Yeah. And then Daquan Jones had a blocked field goal, so that was nice for field goal defense. And then Bass with the field goals was nice. We did miss on that 2-point conversion.
Yeah,
McKenzie had that little jet sweep or whatever it was, a little toss. And he's too small to be able to take that defender on. But if he didn't try to beat him outside, he's fast. But he just missed it. He probably should have cut in.
Yeah, a lot of times you'd see someone put the brakes on at that moment and then use their body weight to get in. But again, it's tough.
It didn't cost the game. They still won by 8.
Yeah.
But the last thing about special teams I wanted to say, that Nyheim Hines, our new acquisition, that was really nice to have. It's nice to see. He's like our modern day Roberts, where you've got somebody who can do punt returns and kick returns. He's going to make the right decision. He sees the field well, and he got some great field position for our offense. So some of those field goals came from his returns alone.
Any Bills fans that are just clamoring to see him get in the backfield and start getting 2-3 carries a drive, just pump the brakes. We got Singletary, who's dishing out almost 5 yards a carry. We got James Cook, who, for all intents and purposes, is maturing before our very eyes. He's starting to impress the coaching staff with things he's picking up now. He's starting to kind of come into his own and is halfway through his rookie season. Look, Hines is a difference maker, and do not take the kick return position or punt return position lightly. And having him and that explosiveness and his agility and his quick twitch muscles.
He's quick.
That could be the difference in a playoff game when you're playing the Chiefs. If we're going into Arrowhead, or hopefully if we're in Buffalo, having him, you get a punt return for a touchdown, and boom, switch that momentum real quick, get it on your side, get a quick 6. It's just huge. Look, eventually they're gonna mix him into the offense. He's gonna be that ace in the hole. But for right now, I'm grateful for finally seeing a game where we saw Allen kind of calm down again. Dish it to different players. We got to see Davis get some action. We got to see Diggs get some action. Knox get some action with almost 80 yards now. You see Singletary and Cook almost run for both over 90 yards. That's balance. That shows other teams that the Bills are more than just having Allen drop back and chucking it or running it if he doesn't see someone open. So
offense and defense and special teams, it's 3 phases. They all need to do well. And I feel like this team is poised for some competition on Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions, who are on a 3-game winning streak. So this week, they go in as the away team, which McDermott made a wise choice to be in the visitor locker room, even though they were the home team against the Browns. That storm, in the city of good neighbors, really demonstrates what the Bills are capable of doing, what fans are there for. They're blue collar, they're resilient, and we've always got each other's backs. It's great to see them, bail out some guys with snowplows, snowmobiles, taking them to the airport, bringing them to vehicles. It was just nice to see something like that. Isn't that funny that Von Miller's neighbors with McDermott?
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when he came to Buffalo, there must have been a house available, and McDermott's like, "Hey, you want to be my neighbor?"
Yeah, and then we got Squirrel Winter, who lives close to Allen, who brought his tractor in to shovel out snow and save the day to get Allen out. I mean, he's become an overnight legend. So you just love to see stories like that. I mean, I think it tells everything there is to say about Buffalonians that, a lot of other communities in this country, I think that they would in situations like that, when you get dumped on with 6 feet of snow, there would be like a lot of complaining and woe is me and oh my God, this is a disaster. And instead, that community they used a thing like football to bring it together. And even without football, they would still help each other out and be the city of good neighbors. But they get through it, they embrace it. And so that was just another shining example of how awesome the people of Buffalo are to each other and the community and how much they care about a football team.
It's so crazy. I was there for the Vikings game in Buffalo, and my family kept saying, "Man, we're going to get buried this weekend. You're going to leave just in time." We left on Wednesday. The storm actually it started snowing that Tuesday, Wednesday, but on Thursdays when it really started coming down, and by Saturday they had 77 inches by Highmark Stadium.
Wild.
And same thing happened 8 years ago where they had to go and play at Ford Field against the Jets, and they beat them 38-3. So
what's the movie Buffalo 66?
Oh,
Instead of Buffalo 66 is Buffalo 77 for
if
77
you haven't,
inches.
And there's also the blizzard of 77.
Yeah.
That's where the snow, actually, the drifts came all the way up to the top of telephone poles. So when snowplows came in, it just buried, went all the way up past houses.
Sorry, one more thing. The most snow I saw growing up in South Dakota, I had my fair share of blizzards, and we had our snow days where you knew it was bad when your mom would come wake you up in the morning, and instead of saying, "Hey, you need to get ready for school," she'd be like, "Hey, did you hear about the news?" I go, "What?" She goes, "School's canceled."
Yeah.
And you knew it was bad when school was canceled because that means that there was enough snow where the plows couldn't get out at 2 a.m. and start plowing away. But the most I saw in a blizzard in Rapid City was probably 3.5 feet.
You guys got some good snow.
Maybe 4 feet, but never that kind of.
When I left Buffalo 8 years ago, it was right around that game, actually, and they had gotten 92 inches that weekend. 92 inches. And 77, which was record-setting for anywhere else, in Buffalo is the new norm.
It's like that photo you have that has the snow just layered on cars and houses in the street, and then it just says Buffalo, New York, just another day in paradise. Look at that.
Yep.
Shout out, Buffalo 716.
As far as the AFC goes, it looks like the Dolphins were on a bye. They're still in first place in the AFC East. But then you had the Patriots and the Jets in a snooze fest. It was 10-3. Basically, the last play of the game, the Patriots returned a punt return for a touchdown. And now they are both 6-4. So 7-3, 7-3, 6-4, 6-4. It's a good
The Dolphins division. They are no joke. We cannot take the Dolphins lightly. They are legit. Tua's playing like an MVP. I feel like it was just yesterday when I was saying that he's good, not great. Man,
I just threw up in my mouth.
But no, they're in first place right now for a reason, and now we get to
because
be
the
tiebreakers.
Team.
Yes, now we get to be the team that hunts again instead of being hunted, and maybe that's what we need. I don't know, that's the edge we need, but that's what we're going to be doing. December is going to be about getting revenge in Buffalo at the Ralph in December against the AFC East. And then real quick, I just want to read a quote. I thought that this was perfect. I was watching the Four Falls of Buffalo again, and
oh, you did?
Yeah, I watched part of it. I didn't get through the whole thing, but when I was house sitting, when I was watching the house for you guys, I watched it.
Okay.
Or started watching some of it. And anyways, it got to the part with Tim Russert, a huge Bills fan from Buffalo that was a longtime host for Meet the Press, and it just the quote not only encapsulates what's it like to be a Bills fan and some of the heartbreak and the hope, but for what just happened this past week with the snowfall, I think it's just perfect. Being a Buffalo Bills fan really isn't being a fan. It's a way of life. It represents people who honestly believe that against all odds, against some of the worst weather imaginable, they have a magnificent life that they're proud of. And that quote is from Tim Russert from Meet the Press. Lifetime Bills fan, rest in peace.
I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, it was a good week for Bills fans. We do go into Thanksgiving this week. We are like 9-point favorites against the Lions. But brace yourselves because it should be a good game. The Lions are on a 3-game win streak. They only have 4 wins on the season, but they're looking for their 5th. This has been episode 18 of The House that Allen Built. I'm Scott Kinmartin. With me, as always,
Greg Vollmer.
We'll see you next time. Let's go,
Buffalo!
Motor up. What's your price for flight?
It's picking you up from the mic that I'm wearing. Yeah, that's where that's coming from. It's been 1 week since I looked at you.
It's been 1 week since I looked at you.
Ow!
Walk like a tick like a tick tock, a tick a tick tock, a tick a doo doo. You're motoring. What's your price for flight? In finding Mr. Right, you'll be alright tonight.
Cheers to Singletary.
Motor up. What's your price for flight? In finding Mr. Right, you'll be alright tonight.
So what did you think of me getting all of these Nyheim Hines
Jeez Louise.
rookie autos?
It's a little excessive.
He was in the same class as Allen, and I really wanted to get Allen's pen pal card because it's actually on card. And now that we have Nyheim Hines all to ourselves, excuse you, dude. Motor up.
What's your price for flight? In finding Mr. Right.
Okay, Bill stats. 18 of 27. You ready to go?
Oh, I'm ready. Ready, Eddie, steady, ready? Petty? Nettie? Freddy Krueger? You the...
You know Chelsea's never watched any of that? Nightmare on Elm Street or
What is
Jason
he,
or any of that?
what did he, the Claw Man? You guys watching the Claw Man? You better watch out. I'm gonna call his buddy up, Chucky. Have him come and scare you guys. What you watching, the Claw Man? Son, help me, son, help me. Help me.
Are you on that trip again?
I'm always on trip.
Oh, trip. The only sack was Matt Milano.
Motor up. What's your price for flight?
About $2,100 to get back to Buffalo. All right.
And why is these gas prices so high? Inflation needs to die. Dun, 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 dun. Ow!
Jacoby Brissett. I was about to say Brissett. I have brisket on my mind. I'm surprised I didn't say Jacoby Brisket.
I did just give
We
him
just
some
had
leftover brisket. Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett. You know
All right.
what? We didn't get into our cheers. We let's do for finally getting a victory Monday.
And I found out later that photo is not even from Buffalo.
No shit.
That is what it looks like in Buffalo. But when I looked it up online, somebody had speculated that it was from a specific storm somewhere else. But that photo is literally like you would see straight out of Buffalo.
You would fool me.
Yeah.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, ain't gonna fool me again. The
Good
Dolphins
division.
they are no joke. Like, we can't not take them lightly. They are.
We can't not, or we cannot.
And the quote is, being a Buffalo Bills fan really isn't being a fan. It's a way of life. That they have a life that they're proud. Jesus.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. One more time.
No pressure. Take your time, Timmy. 37 take Timmy. Is that Let's Go
right.
Buffalo?
Let's go Buffalo.
You trying to do Tim Allen or just sound like...
All right.
All right, here we go. Ooh, my beard looks pretty good. Getting thick. Look my. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we covered it all.